Alright, this is Chat UTD and more on the potential takeover of Manchester United. The story has moved on in that the general consensus is that there is a consortium from the United Arab Emirates that are interested in buying United, and depending on what you read, the Glazers may well be open to sell. Encouragingly, The Athletic did an article at the weekend suggesting that it would be beneficial for the Glazers to sell now, or between now and February of 2027, because from now until February of 2027, that part of the drag along clause is that if they were to sell the club, they've got every right to do that, but it would have to be at a premium price of $33 per share and or more. And I think at $33 per share, that values the club at around £5.5 billion. I might be wrong, but I think that's right. And the club, based on its actual share price now, is worth, depending on what you read, between 2.5 and £3 billion. So they would essentially be getting double what the club is worth if they were to sell now and sell for that amount of money. They might think beyond February 2027 that they could get even more money, but I doubt it. So that's encouraging, I guess. If there's a consortium of people from the United Arab Emirates, they will know the price that United are looking at. It's much more transparent than it was 2 or 3 years ago with the saga that went on then. That was an open market where if someone believed the club to be worth $3 billion, they could bid at $3 billion. The Glazers could laugh them out of the room. You're going to have to pay at least £5 to £5.5 billion. Everyone will know that coming into this. So you'd hope that if a consortium is being put together, it's with the intent to pay at the very least £5 to £5.5 billion. Now, the Glazers could take the piss and say, no, we want £7 billion. But the very least, you know, it's going to be 5 to 5.5, and there's no point in putting a consortium together if you haven't got that money. So I think it's safe to say that the consortium, if it exists, will have the money to do it. I was stung by what happened a couple of years ago with the whole hope that it could happen, hope that we could finally be rid of the Glazers, and we were told by Mike Keegan of the Daily Mail that the Qatari group would blow everyone out of the water. It never happened. And there was a price to pay and they didn't pay it. I don't even really think they had a strong competition. Ineos weren't strong competition. It's just that Ineos gave the Glazers a way to stay. It was an open field for them if they wanted to take the club in its entirety. I'm not even sure I really believe the whole Qatar group. I know it existed, but I don't know how serious it was, or if the Glazers were ever going to sell United. I think from the minute they put that statement out in November of 2022 that they might be seeking strategic investment or the sale of the club, I think they knew full well that they were going to be able to do a deal with Jim Ratcliffe, and I think that had been in the works for some time. But to Joe Punter like me, who's just reading articles and started a channel because of it, it got my hopes up, because the Glazers leaving this football club is everything to me, regarding football anyway. The future of the club is completely based on that. Whether whether we have a future or not is based on that. And I really don't want to go through the getting your hopes up only to be quashed, because it was devastating when it didn't happen, when the full sale didn't take place. So if there is a group from the UAE putting a consortium together, or maybe they already have one, then you know what the price is, pay it or don't. And I would hope that we get some clarity on what's happening sometime soon. I know the process of a takeover takes time in terms of from when the story breaks to the actual changing of ownership. That's fine, I understand that, but clarity as to whether or not it's going to happen is massively important. The question's been asked, why would the Glazers get rid of their cash cow? They're never going to sell United. it has been a cash cow for them. I don't think it is right now, and it could be again in the future, but it isn't now. Even they at the moment haven't got the cheek to take dividends. The club's on its arse financially. Ineos have straightened it out a bit, but not enough so that the Glazers can start milking it again. And we're way down the rungs of the ladder before getting back up again to be able to start taking big bucks out. That's somewhere in the distance. It's not right now, and it's not anytime soon. Their reasons for staying a couple of years ago were based on what were obviously flawed projections as to what was going to happen. But it kept being told, well, there's an expanded Champions League, there's a Club World Cup. Clear as day, United weren't going to be able to get into those competitions. There is obviously the stadium that is in the works. If it is in the works, that's not going to take 5 years. It'll be between 7 and 10 years. So Joel Glazer is 58, Avram Glazer is 64, and Jim Ratcliffe is 73 next week. 7 to 10 years to wait around for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when you can take close to $1 billion each now. I don't particularly think that makes sense, but it didn't make sense 2 years ago either. The club needed £3 billion invested in it to make it into a £10 billion club, and Ineos have put 250 to 300 million pound in, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe has. The 1.2 billion pound that Ratcliffe paid for a stake in the club has been taken by the Glazers. United has seen none of it. So the club has had a tenth of what it needs. And I think when they first came in, Ineos thought, this isn't rocket science, this is Man United with the third biggest income in world football. Don't need to put a lot of money in. We just need to do common sense things well, make a few cuts, make a few decisions, and do what the Glazers couldn't be arsed doing for years, put season ticket prices up, play bad cop for a bit, and with austerity and pragmatism, we'll lead the club back to greatness, and it'll be a £10 billion valued club with a new stadium. It kind of beggars belief that anyone thought that was going to work. You've got to speculate to accumulate, especially when you're as damaged as Man United are. So I wonder if, going back to why the Glazers would leave, they finally might be realising, actually, this wasn't quite as straightforward as it appears. And the projections we made, we're not going to achieve those projections because we haven't got the money to put in to achieve them. You're going to have to finish top 4 or 5 year in, year out. Sponsorship is based on whether you get in the Champions League or not. Now, we've got a flat rate of sponsorship which will be high, and United have very high revenue streams, but they are affected by a lack of European football, by a lack of Champions League football. But this year we haven't got European football at all. There's talk of giving Amorim 3 years. We're not getting European football under Amorim, I don't believe, this year either. So that's 2 years, which will impact on the amount of sponsorship money you get. And of course, you're missing out on the money you get from being in Europe as well. So that again points to maybe it being the right time to walk away. There's a bit of arrogance there, to sort of think, well, we'll come in and do it this way. We'll do it. We'll lead United to success doing it a way that nobody's ever done before. Pragmatism and austerity from a position of weakness. And all the while, I'm not just talking about City, Arsenal, Liverpool. There's about 6 or 7 other clubs outside of those 3 that are run better than United and are probably going to finish above us. And we need to finish in the top 4 or 5 season in, season out to qualify for the Champions League every year, to qualify for Europe every year, which gives them those high revenue streams that would then lead to the Glazers being able to milk the cow again. We're not going to do that. Those teams are not going to stand still while the mighty Man United catch up. And we're not catching up. We're not close. Again, like with the stuff off the pitch with the stadium, us catching up is years in the future at the moment, if it's going to happen at all. If anything, as I said the other week, I think we might be in decline. But we're certainly not showing any signs that this is going to be a club regularly finishing in the Champions League in the next few years. No chance. There's also, as I say, with the thing that the article that The Athletic did, where they mentioned it would benefit them to sell before February of 2027. That again is something else that points to a reason why they might go. I did see something last week about maybe the American markets crashing, and there's a prediction that will happen in a predicted recession in America, which would mean that it would make sense for the Glazers to go. So, maybe. But then I thought there was loads of reasons for them to go 2 or 3 years ago, and everything I thought that didn't make sense has proved to be true, but they still didn't go. The only thing I can see them hanging on for is the stadium. But as I say, you're hanging around at ages 58, 64 and 73 on a maybe. When you can take, all right, it might be, to give an Oasis reference, it might be a definitely maybe, but you've got, if there is an offer on the table in excess of £5 billion, you've got no responsibility for the debt that you've caused. You've got generational wealth, and you've pulled off the heist of the century. And that's a definite thing that you could have, rather than a maybe in the future. But the stadium obviously will bring them a lot of revenue. They would have to borrow money to build it. They would have to probably have the naming rights. They'll get money from the naming rights of the stadium, I'm sure, but they'll still probably have to borrow money. So I don't think you can just keep borrowing money and not paying it back like they used to, on top of what we've already got. So even the stadium's not a straightforward thing. I saw a comment that a fan made the other day, which really irritated me. A fan put on a video I was watching about this whole subject, and the UAE had been mentioned by this point. A fan put, well, if the UAE take United, it's finished. The club's dead. Now everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone has their value system. Everybody has their morals. But my argument to that person would be, are you as outraged as you would be about the UAE owning United with the current owners? Because I'd like to say, to ask, where's the outcry with them? Because these bastards have killed our club systematically over a 20-year period. They have raped and pillaged it. They have overseen a racketeering operation dressed up as football ownership, and it's a crime against the club. Have you protested against that? Have you campaigned against that? Because you might think the UAE represents the death of Man United. Man United are dying right now because of the Glazers. Is this a moral death? Does that make it all right? Give me the choice between the UAE consortium or what we've got right now. I take the UAE consortium without knowing anything about it every single day of the week, because I believe that if they took the club on without knowing who they are, just guesswork, I think their primary objective would be to make Manchester United great again on the football pitch. Money would be no problem. We're not doing it with our hands tied behind our backs. We wouldn't have a cheat code, because you can't do that anymore. The rules are tighter with stuff like that, but we would just have the freedom to do what we needed to do. If they've got anything about them, they would put smart people in good position, in the right positions at the club, who would try, I think, to bring back, inverted commas, the United way on the pitch and around the club. They wouldn't be looking for a return on their investment, because if I read it right, those types of people don't. It's a prestige project. It's my car's better than your car type of thing. They would want to usurp City. They'd want to bring United back to the top again. As it was said a few years ago, United are the crown jewel of English football, and it's on its arse. So someone can come in and be something of a hero. Like I said the other day, the local butcher doesn't have enough money to buy a club like Man United anymore. The local car salesman who's got a few quid and a nice watch and some jewellery ain't rich enough to buy Man United anymore. Those days are long, 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 long gone. I want my club to be able to compete. Football isn't the same as it used to be anyway. The essence of the game isn't there, but Man United still exist within what's there now, and I want them to compete. It won't feel the same as it used to, probably, but I want them to compete nonetheless. And the only way we compete is if the Glazers leave the football club, and the only way the Glazers leave the club is if someone has the money to buy them out. And the only people who have the money to buy the Glazers out it's likely to be people from the region or around that region that we're hearing that money's going to come from. Maybe Amazon, maybe Apple, maybe Elon Musk, but I'm not hearing any of them people linked to United. So it's that, or it's what we've got now. And as I said, I know which one I would take every day of the week. The Glazers are a curse on this club. Any improvements we try to make, any good people that come into the club, it just never works. Because they're bitten by the curse of the Glazers. There's so many examples of people, good people, at all different levels of the infrastructure of the club that have come in, and including managers and players, recruitment teams, people on the board, all manner of different people have come into this club, and they've been brilliant where they've been previously, and they fail at Manchester United. And that's a cultural problem and an environmental problem. There's too many for it to be a coincidence, and that's because of the Glazers. This club is devoid of any hope or optimism because of them. And it filters down to the pitch. The whole atmosphere around the club is one of apathy and resignation, really. If it was announced tonight that there is indeed a consortium from the UAE, or anywhere else for that matter, that's going to buy Manchester United, you wouldn't have to wait for it to actually happen to see the impact of that. Because I go back to November of 2022, when the Glazers announced they were looking for strategic investment and or a takeover of the club. And as United fans, we wanted to believe the latter, so that's what we thought. The players came back from the World Cup in Qatar and went on an incredible run of form. The best run at that point since Solskjaer came in and took over from Mourinho, and we've never gone on a run like that since November of 22 through to whatever it was, February, March of 23. And I believe that was not, Erik ten Hag didn't become a tactical genius. He hadn't started massively well. The players didn't suddenly become great players. I believe the whole club sighed a collective sigh of relief. And it felt like there was some hope that maybe there was change in the air and maybe we're going to get a fresh start. Because everyone at the club knows that's what's needed. So you'd see that again, I'm sure, if it is, there's something in this. And I really hope that there is. I would celebrate it more than I celebrated the treble, because it means far more. Long term, it means far more. It gives us hope. It gives us freedom. It gives us a fresh start, which is so desperately needed. Everything's got the shackles on it at United because of them. I'm just going to finish with it's a bit speculative, but in terms of where this consortium might be from, I've always had in my head for some reason something about Dubai. That if United were ever to be taken over, it would be from someone from Dubai. And the reasons are twofold. One, it's a rumour that's never really gone away. as long as 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, there was talk that Dubai were interested in buying United. Quite serious talk about it at one point. And secondly, the reason I think it might happen is I don't think they invest in a major club. And Abu Dhabi have got City, Saudi Arabia have got Newcastle, Qatar have got PSG. I'm sure Dubai invest in some football teams, but they haven't got, again, the crown jewels, if you like. And they are from the region of the United Arab Emirates, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was them. We need clarity, as I mentioned before. I'm sure we'll get some at some point soon. This can't just rumble on. This, the stock price, the share price has gone up massively based on these rumours. You can't just keep a rumour going like that. It was for such a huge institution like Manchester United. Something will have to be said in the next few days, I would have thought, to give some clarity as to whether or not this is just a load of nonsense or whether there's something that could happen here. And I really, really hope that it's the latter and that something does happen and that we finally rid ourselves of this disease and this curse that is the Glazer family. So please God it happens. Glazers out.